People were standing in line for my autograph for hours a couple months prior. And now I'm sitting on my couch thinking everything's done. And nothing I did caused it.
All right, thrilled to be back here today. And I brought a really good friend of mine that you guys got to hear his story. And I've just been honored to know my friend Josh Oliver.
Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, good to see you. You know, you don't tell a story yet, but you told a story when we were on a trip together once, and I immediately knew, I was like, I've got to get him in front of the Increase audience. So I'm glad that you're willing to come, be vulnerable, share some stories, share your life, hopefully help some people, which I know you will. You do. So
very grateful to be here, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate the chance to kind of chop it up with you a little bit, and I love the journey that you're on as well, man. So we're in it. Let's go.
We're in it. You know, I shared before on this podcast, we're talking about that journey to success. We're talking about the journey through the wilderness. You know, we look at, in the Bible, we look at the book of Exodus, and I really believe it's a blueprint for our life. Exodus and Joshua, right? We feel this call to more. Feel like God has awakened us to what could be possible with our life. And I have this belief that in order for us to really step into our purpose, we've got to leave Egypt so that he can take Egypt out of us and then really renew our spirit so that we can then walk into a promised land of purpose, of meaning, of impact. And the folks that are part of this community, they're on that journey. And a lot of them are finding themselves in wildernesses and wondering, is the promise still true? Is there really another side? Because it feels like the more I follow God, the further away it gets. And I know that you're a man who's walked that journey. You've crossed the Jordan. You're on the other side. And I think them hearing another perspective would just be a great thing. Plus, I just love your story.
Yeah, happy to share. I've got endless amounts of random stories.
Yeah.
So,
how much time do we have?
Yeah, how much time do we got? We might make a series out of this. But no, I think what you're touching on, and I think what a lot of folks that are tuning in about with having this question is a very common and very real question, right? And so my journey is not really all that different than everybody else's. It's filled with success, struggle, failure, all of the things. Yeah. And perspective has become a marker for me to understand what I'm going through and what I've been through, and I see God's faithfulness in that, you know. And as I started my journey, Eastern North Carolina, son of a preacher man, and my dad, he basically was in a situation where he didn't have a whole lot of things about business, but he taught me how to love people unconditionally, and that kind of became a foundational element for me. All the good and the bad and ugly that comes with that. And so my entrepreneurial journey started by just the need for, I wanted to do something besides go to university or go to college. So I jumped out in the entrepreneurial world.
I bet you most people don't know that about you, that you're not a college graduate.
Oh, dude, that was all I could do to get out of high school.
Well, that's surprising. So really quick, this man owns multiple companies. He travels the world. I mean, you watch his Facebook feed and it's dizzying, and it's a lot of it's business travel. You weave in a lot of adventure with your family, has a lot going on. And then the joke behind your back is, what does Josh really do?
Yeah.
Because it seems like every time someone meets you, you got some new venture going on or getting pulled into different conversations. And I know that that's even a running joke around your family. So, you know, I think I was surprised to know they didn't go to university. We all assumed there's some formal path to success and you got to go through some 4-year college to get there. And so when we meet somebody who's doing a lot of really, you know, cool things and making money and traveling the world, that of course you've got these pedigree and degree that goes behind it.
Yeah, it's with just an approach of being a generalist at best, right? Yeah. And I love partnering with folks that are technically proficient at something and saying, what if? You know, and so me not having a pre-existing framework helped in that way. So to fast forward through all kinds of amazing stories of the origin of all of these things, somehow coupled within my entrepreneurial journey, a band that I was in took off, and we spent a decade on the road touring all over the world. It was back when I was cooler, I guess. My kids still look at me like, there's no way that was you. And I'm like, oh, trust me, I used to be cool. And but no, it was nothing that we even really set out to do. It was just it was an amazing moment that we were able to capture. And I got a lot of stories about that too. But to fast forward to the story that you were talking about.
Well, real quick, tell a story or two from the road.
Okay.
Because I think to say you're 10 years in a band, I was in a band for 6 years, and we didn't leave Durham County. You see what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
You're in a band that went all over the globe. What I didn't know is you got 1 million miles under your belt in a tour bus.
1.1 million.
1.1 million.
Logged as a commercial driver. So shout out to all the CDL guys out there.
Right. Grammy nominated musician.
Yeah.
Right.
Very
You've
cool.
met a lot of super famous people that you probably still have on text threads with, because you're backstage with people that I'm sure our audience would even know. So it wasn't a small thing.
It was an absolute blessing from the Lord that we were able to go down those journeys and create music, make an impact in people's lives. Mm-hmm. And it actually became a very fundamental part of my understanding of business.
Oh, really?
And so
I don't think I've heard this part.
Yeah, so we can touch on that real quick. So, man, I'm trying to calculate how all this kind of fits, but I remember I didn't really have, of course, any formal training, right? I grew up in a small little coastal town in the Outer Banks.
Well, and a lot of entrepreneurs don't either. Something just hits.
Yep.
And it takes off, and you almost get in trouble because of your success, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was completely content, had a cool house on the beach and had a couple businesses running, and this little side thing that we had as a band, and we were writing music that was very like renewal and restoration based. Because some of the guys that were in the band with me had
underneath some heavy metal,
had definitely some heavy stuff, right? and so we were just doing that as a way to just create, right?
Yeah.
And so to fast forward through all that,
did you keep your businesses running, or did you close them down?
No. I wound up selling them, or closing them down. So there was a couple different adventures that we were going through with that, but you couldn't do both. Right?
No, right.
250 shows a year for 8 years straight. Like you can't manage anything. But
gosh, I mean, that's more work days than most people have. 250 shows.
Oh, you were in a constant state of movement back then.
Right.
So we were in a van and trailer, and then a bus, and all the things. But anyway, fast forward a little bit just to give you a little snapshot of the road. I remember we were creating music in a storage unit in Beaufort, North Carolina.
That was your studio?
It was wherever we could jam without people complaining. And running one power cord across as many mud puddles as we could find to find an outlet. And every time I hit the kick drum, like the little light that we had would just
So that was your Muscle Shoals, right?
It was our Muscle Shoals. Yeah, the good old. I've been there, and we did some studio work in there. But anyway, I remember we were writing a song about Fight Like This, and it was just setting down a rhythm, setting down a groove, right? Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden bass starts kicking in. You start getting the foundational elements of the groove in place, and then a riff comes on top of it with a guitar player, and then another guitar player starts adding all this cool color pieces, and then the singer starts singing this melody, and this melodic thing starts happening, and it goes from me just setting the tempo. Mm-hmm. You know where I'm going with this.
I just figured it out, bro.
And then, boom, there's another piece of the puzzle that's happening. And then right after that, we start getting into a groove together. And then all of a sudden, a rhythm became a groove. That became a melody. That became a song. So all of this kind of formulated in my head over time. I remember fast forward then, a year and a half, 2 years later, all kinds of crazy things that happened. We signed a deal. We're out on the road, we're touring, we got asked to come play this festival in Germany, and we were just like, what the heck is happening? It's all happening so fast. And so I remember we were walking out on stage in Germany, and there's all these people out in front of us that were like getting into the intro of the song, and I'm walking out, I'm saluting the audience, I kick into this, the rhythm, count everybody, and then boom, the explosion happens of energy, and everybody's going bananas, and they're singing back the lyrics in English to this song that we wrote about fighting addiction
Wow.
in this storage unit, sweating our butts off in the middle of summer, because it meant something to us, and it changed the way that we were able to release some of that story. And I remember thinking in my mind, I would have never thought in a million years that what we wrote in Beaufort, North Carolina, would help change the trajectory of people's lives in Germany just 24 months later. So that became I remember when I was sitting there just wailing into that groove, I could feel essentially what I would consider the Holy Spirit talking to me, saying, this is what I was created to do, is to set the tempo.
And you just described your whole business philosophy.
Completely.
You realize that, right?
Absolutely.
You did that
yeah.
on purpose. You're right. I mean, that's got to be a book or a TED Talk one day. I know you're too cool for those things, but I mean, that is having watched. Now all of a sudden, I had the aha moment because I've watched you on Facebook and afar, and the business things you have going on. But you've also shared with me how you get those things moving, which I've been intrigued as an entrepreneur. And now all of a sudden, when you told that story, I was like, I don't know, I totally get how this works now.
Yeah, and that makes sense to me. It's not, I mean, some people it doesn't make any sense, but that's how I'm wired. So for me, it's like, okay, everything that I do moving forward from that moment on was, how am I going to be able to have the right response, the right groove, the right tempo, the right acknowledgement of my journey and energy towards the future that will honor what's been done in my life and given to me in a way that I can still create, even though the music industry eventually died.
And really quick, what was really cool about what you shared is I know you to know, and a lot of successful businesses really don't start with a business plan, let's be honest.
No.
You know what I mean? That's tough for universities and stuff like that. You set a tempo, and you attracted the different sounds to come join you in that tempo. And that's how I've seen you set these businesses up, because you set a rhythm and you bring it, and those people just come bring their piece to the table, because you don't try to do anybody else's stuff. You know your role, and then they come join you, and then music happens.
No, let's create a song, and we have no idea where that's going to go. It might be just for
And then we
people
write a
in the
business
room.
plan 10 years later,
Yeah.
once it's worked.
Yeah, I mean, and I love, putting best practices into place
Sure.
and all that stuff, but that's another guy's tool. That's more of a sound guy in the band, I guess. But anyway, no, I viewed the world that way, and that's why a lot of things I do have rhythm in it, or the rhythmic way, or things that have something with rhythm, because I love things that have cadence, and love things that have that groove, right? And so for me, as I continue on my journey, I understand that I got to stay in my lane. I got to stay in the pocket, is what drummers like to say. Just stay in the pocket. And I remember another business, I guess, nugget here is, I remember a really good drummer of mine told me, it's not what you can play, it's what you don't play. And it stuck with me. For one, because I wasn't talented enough to do all the cool stuff the other guy was doing, but I could find the groove, stay in the pocket, and just lay it down. Right?
Yeah.
So that's my job as a person on the journey with someone, is to say, this is the pocket, this is where we're going to get in sync, and let's go. Let's create something. What if?
So Grammy nominated, playing all over the world, playing in big arenas. Like, these weren't just bars. I'm sure it started that way, but that's not where it, you guys, but you're not doing that today. I mean, I see you travel in the world. That hasn't stopped, but you travel in the world with contracts and business relationships. So how did that end? And then how did this new life get launched?
With a lot of things in my life, and never had a plan to get in or a plan to get out, right? And so,
let's play the song until it ends, right?
Play the song until they're ready to turn the music off.
But I think some of the wisdom to that, really quick, that we not ignore this for the audience, is, like, I'm a planner. I love to plan stuff, but life really doesn't work that way, And I think a lot of times we're so afraid of of whether we're going to get it wrong or right, or how the next thing's going to go, that we spend too much time planning things. When, let's just be honest, life just takes off. You just get on the bus and see where it goes.
Yeah, all the time.
You just play the song until it ends.
For us, as we navigate the ever-changing circumstances around us, we have to understand what our talent and skill is and what we're driven to do and what comes natural for us, and say, okay, how can I give this back with a sense of generosity? That's what's going to give you energy and fuel down the road, because money will come and go, success will come and go, influence will come and go. All of those things are in most cases influenced or outcomes of things that you're out of your control anyway. And so your job as you're navigating the journey that you're on is to say, how can I be a better version of what God has built me to be, and be as generous as I can with that, and let God, my provider, my sustainer, be the one that does what he does.
Mm-hmm. So when the music stopped,
Yeah, that was fun.
you got to tell the story.
So,
man, 'cause
okay.
you tell it so really quick. We're in Wyoming. I've been blessed enough to take a few trips with Josh, and he tells a story, and I had spent plenty of time with you. I'd never heard the story. He tells a story, and I don't know if it meant anything to anybody else at the table, but it sure meant something to me, because the story held a really critical principle, and it's the principle that this audience needs to hear, because a lot of people are so looking at the next stage, the next platform. They feel called to whatever, and yet that is not what's presented themselves. And sometimes they end up at a place where, like, I didn't choose this. I didn't want the music to end, and now it's over, and now what? And so here, world traveler on stages at the Grammys, and the music stopped one day.
Music stopped. I remember sitting on my couch in Wilmington, North Carolina, and I'm getting phone calls from guys in the industry that are leaving the industry, getting laid off.
What happened? You said there was
I mean,
something that happened in the
The
industry.
whole industry just kind of eroded, especially on the rock side of
Is
the
this
world.
pre-Spotify or like right at
This
the
is
edge of that?
all during the beginnings of all of those things, right?
So
And
it's being disrupted by technology, really.
technology was changing everything. So, I remember people were like, "Oh, Napster," people were illegally downloading all this kind of stuff, and I mean, that started a trend of things happening, but really what killed it was streaming and the centralization of, services, and then the adoption of social media. Fans became, engaged with you on a daily basis, and they're more concerned about what you had for breakfast than the music that you were working on, right? And not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm a huge fan of staying involved and communicating and showing different parts of the life, but at the end of the day, for me, it was the way people consume music was very, very different. You didn't need labels, you didn't need big production companies, you didn't need everything changed, right? And so I kind of felt like, and I've shared this with you, I think, where I remember sitting there on my couch thinking, like the Yellow Page guy, when he used to come around to me quarterly to sell me ads for my business at the time, 10 years prior.
Let's not age ourselves, but it was
Yellow
yesterday.
Page guy. That was the only way people found you back in the day, right? And then all of a sudden I hear this thing called Google, and I'm like, okay, that's way cooler. And that's never going to go back to Yellow Pages, So I remember sitting there on my couch, and we were working on a record. I'm getting calls from guys that are leaving the industry entirely. People were panicking, especially on the label side, on the industry side. And I just remember thinking, okay, God, what do you have for me next?
So you could tell the music was stopping.
It was.
The song was over. Was the rest of your band able to? Did they know that? Did they pick up on that? Was it?
They were on a different journey, I think, because they were real musicians. Like they were the ones that were the talent, right? And so I could easily see, and still to this day, some of those guys are still doing a lot of things in music. But as a band, and as an entity that we were, the music had stopped.
Okay.
And
you're married at this time?
Married. I didn't have any kids at the time. Wanted to have kids, and it was just a big, up in the air thing. And I'm like, wait a minute. People were standing in line, and I'm not saying this in a prideful way, but you know where I'm coming from on this, is that people were standing in line for my autograph for hours a couple months prior. And now I'm sitting on my couch thinking, everything's done. And nothing I did caused it.
Right.
And that was hard for me to figure out for a second, because I sat there and got in my feelings for a minute. And then I was like, wait a minute. There was a marker that marked my life during my tours where someone came up to me and we were having this really good conversation. This, it was definitely a God moment where they basically were calling me out on something. I was acting a fool about something, and they said, if the light that is on you is greater than the light that's in you, the light that's on you is going to destroy you. Mm-hmm. And that started resonating in my mind. This was around 2009. And I immediately was like, I'm a rock drummer in a rock band, playing shows every night.
And the light is on you is the attention of men.
The attention of man.
And that's a really so what I'm trying to help people with is that's Egypt. Egypt, you succeed in Egypt by praise of man, getting someone else's attention. Mm-hmm. The kingdom is about the light that's in you, completely illuminating other people's lives.
Completely. And if my sense of success and worthiness comes from the light that's on me, then it's gonna burn me alive. Okay. And I was starting to have that happen.
You were feeling
in my character.
That. I could feel it. You could feel it, yeah.
And it was a moment that God really spoke into my life through this particular person. And so I immediately started digging in on my personal development, my spiritual development, because I didn't want that to ever happen. Mm-hmm. That started in 2009.
Okay.
This is now 2011.
All right.
And the whole world around me crashes. But I've been building on it since 2009.
He was actually preparing you.
He was preparing me for that moment.
For the moment.
When I could have never forecasted it. Because I thought, we're a couple records in. We got nominated for a Grammy. We're touring all over the world. Like, this is going to be my next 20 years.
Yeah.
Everything stopped. Sitting there, God, what do you want to do with me now? Because I felt like I could pretty much do anything. But I knew people all over the world, but I didn't know anybody in my hometown, Everybody's already grown and got married, had kids, started careers. I've been gone for 10 years, And I prayed about it for a minute, and I literally felt God say, just open your computer and do something. So I opened my computer, which those that know me know that's a really weird thing.
And this guy runs multiple businesses. He's like, if I open my computer, something's wrong.
Something's weird happening.
There's other people open computers.
That's not my skill.
Yeah, you set the rhythm.
Yeah. So there was a thing called Craigslist back then. And I don't know why I found myself on Craigslist just scrolling through things that people need. And I run across this ad, someone looking for a delivery driver from 2 a.m. to 8 a.m. And I'm like, for some reason, I saw it and I was like, that seems pretty easy. And then I'm like, thinking in my mind, like, what am I supposed to do with that? And maybe I'm not listening to this. But again, my heart had been softened to a place where I could be receptive.
It makes no sense to me, bro. People waited for hours to sign your autograph, and now you're looking at an ad to be a delivery driver, overnight delivery driver. The fact that you even considered it is hard for me to even wrap my head around.
The only reason that is because my heart was soft enough to be receptive to it.
Because the level of humility it takes to step off the throne and go down into the pit, right? A lot of us, like me, I had to do that, but I didn't do it willingly. And I really believe if you don't humble yourself, you'll be humiliated.
Oh, completely.
And
completely.
I have been.
And I made a lot of really terrible decisions during that season of my life because I was in a funk, emotionally and spiritually, but my heart was still soft.
So anyway, sorry, you read the ad.
I read the ad. And again, the Holy Spirit said, give it a call. So I called this number on there. Shout out to Joe Triplett. We're still friends to this day. This guy answers the phone. And all this noise in the background. I'm like, hey, I'm calling about an ad on Craigslist about a driver. And it says I need a van and knows anything about logistics, which I knew a lot about logistics because of what I just did.
You got a million miles of logistics.
And I look in my backyard and I got a tour bus, I got a van, I got a trailer, I got a bunch of stuff ready to go. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, meet me at Jeff Gordon Chevrolet in Wilmington at 2 a.m. tonight. And I was like, what? Didn't even know my last name, didn't know anything about me, nothing. Just meet me at Jeff Gordon Chevrolet at 2 a.m. This was like 5 p.m. And my wife gets home from whatever she was doing. I said, honey, I think I'm going to go start something tonight. I'm not sure what it is yet, but I'll let you know. But I'm going to leave tonight in the middle of the night. And she goes, okay. Like,
I'm used to you being gone.
She's like, whatever. You're fine. Unusual. So my mind starts racing. Like, what is this? What am I going to be delivering? And then I'm like, well, what am I supposed to wear? What am I supposed to? I want to at least show myself well, right?
Okay.
And so, of course, like anybody, I go to Walmart, say, what do delivery drivers wear? Oh, blue Dickies. So, because everything I had band clothes, right? I didn't want to be like, little did I know what I was getting ready to walk into. But so I go get some Dickies shorts and a shirt, and I go wash the van.
You didn't yellow vest or anything like that?
No, none of that.
But you had the uniform.
Look for shoes that weren't like, drummer shoes. And so, of course, I couldn't sleep. So I get to Jeff Gordon Chevrolet, and I see this straight truck come flying into the parking lot, and like, just pulls in. I pull in. Joe gets out of the truck. I didn't know who he was. I didn't even know his name at the time. His hair's all disheveled. Wild man. Joe has been in the business for a long time. Let's put it that way. And I'm looking at him. He's looking at me. I'm looking back at him. He's like, he says a couple of words in a positive way, I guess. Says, let's go. He starts chunking boxes at me, hands me a ring of keys, and hands me a stack of papers and says, get all this delivered by 8 a.m. Give me a call if you have any questions.
See ya.
Deuces. And that's when I realized that the barrier of entry in the logistics business was like, if you're breathing and you can walk, like, you're golden.
The moment he pulls out of the parking lot, what's the first thought that goes through
I'm running
your mind?
drugs. I thought I was running drugs. And I'm like, I've seen guys, no offense, Joe. I've seen guys that look like that backstage before, and I was like, okay. And so I'm looking in these boxes, and I'm like, these are auto parts. What am I doing with auto parts? And then I realized that everywhere I was supposed to go were dealerships. And that's what started my first company out of being in a band. And so I literally was like, okay, let's go get this delivered. It was super fun to just figure it all out because no one was telling me anything. And thankfully, I had a lot of experience of just having to adapt on the fly, what we call jazz drumming. And so 8 o'clock, I called Joe, and I was like, dude, it's all delivered. He's like, no way, it's awesome. I'm like, well, what happens now? And he's like, well, just shoot me a bill for it and let's do it again tonight. And I'm like, okay. So needless to say, to fast forward a little bit, I started a logistics company, called some other buddies that I knew that were in bands, that had vans, that liked to be up in the middle of the night and say, let's go deliver to Eastern North Carolina. And that created a logistics company that then merged into another company. And that's what brought me to the Triangle. And next thing you know, it grew into quite a monster of a business and created some great relationships that I still have to this day. Yeah, it's amazing. But again, none of that would have happened if that gentleman didn't speak into my life in 2009 and I continued to fall into that trap of being a rock star and wasn't humbled by his comment and became paranoid that I would fall into that trap. And I took intentional steps to try and find myself back spiritually and emotionally so that when that wall came crashing down around me, I wouldn't have been able to respond that way.
It was able to be the end of a chapter, not the end of the book.
Completely.
Well, speak into the life of somebody who might be watching now, who probably needs the same kind of perspective change.
So my encouragement to you, if you're watching this and you've had success, or maybe you've been chasing success for a while, hit pause. Understand who you are and what God has created you to be and the vision that he's given you, and understand the season that you're in is going to be part of the playbook that you're going to talk to people with down the road. As I look back at hundreds of examples of God's faithfulness in my life with terrible decisions that I've made, great wins that have happened, huge losses that I've had, I have markers in my journey of reminding me of God's faithfulness in those moments. And if you find yourself in a funk, in a rut, in a dark hole, and you're trying to find your way to understand where God has for you, know that he has called you for a greater purpose. You focus on what he's built you to do, and you lead with generosity to those around you and allow God to provide the path for you. And if you don't have that path, open your computer. Go to that networking event. Go serve at your local church or a local mission organization. Go be generous with your time, talent, and resources for what you've been entrusted to have now, and God will bless it for you down the road. So that movement will create the momentum that you need in your life for you to see what God has promised you or given you a vision for come to fruition. And a lot of times it's not the way we think it's going to be. When I set out to do this journey a long time ago, I thought I was going to have, cool house on the beach, beautiful wife, 2.3 kids, and a couple dogs. And I was going to live that entrepreneurial life. I would have never thought in a million years it would have pivoted to this 10 years in the music business and then having to hit the restart button multiple times since then with success, failure. And with each iteration of that, God has been faithful every single time. If I don't put this existing framework of what's owed to me involved.
Yeah, that's great. I know for me on my journey, the thing that I resisted for so long was the first step of obedience. Because when you're in a tough spot and God's given you big vision for your life, you struggle to see how in the world could this next step lead to wherever he's going to take me. How could, closing businesses down, then going to work as a carpenter on ladders and in crawl spaces for a friend of mine who has a company half the size of what I used to run, how could that ever be the first step to where I'm trying to get to? How could taking a pay cut, you just take the first step. Completely. Because the first step is always right in front of you. Like, what is in your hands? That's where you start.
Yeah, it's literally about getting out of your own way and feeling entitled for something and saying, how can I serve? And how can I serve well? And if you allow yourself to be humble, hungry, and allow yourself to say, okay, God, I have no idea what you have planned for me, but I know I can wake up in the morning, become a better version of myself, be a better father, be a better husband, serve people, do things that I feel uncomfortable doing. I am an extreme version of that now. Like, I like to just parachute into a country now and just say, I'm going to work remote and figure out what the culture around me is saying. And God has immensely blessed me from meeting amazing people all over the world and learning new things and experiencing cultures. But that can happen across town. That can happen in a group of people that can do absolutely nothing for you, but you can speak into their life. I have another quick story.
Please.
So to give you an example, this is what popped in my head. early last year, I was in Dubai with a couple of guys that we had just met. And I met someone else that was like, hey, you should go to Kazakhstan. And they have a new economy emerging because they've been under Soviet control for so long, and communism, the whole thing. And no one knows what it's like to own a business. We'd love for you to come and speak maybe to our folks about it. Sure, let's go. When? No plan. No, well.
Never known you to turn down an invite.
Just go and see where God leads. Needless to say, I went there, met some amazing people, was hosting a little seminar, answered questions, talking about entrepreneurship, a little bit about my journey. And there was an older gentleman there that was definitely, I would say, a senior compared to most of the people that were in the room. And he asked me a question during our question time. And he goes, I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically said, what happens when you've had success and you lose it all? Is it worth continuing? And I'm looking at him, and essentially I was able to share with him about how I lost everything, and beauty came from that. And that God will use the circumstances in your life, again, to be a playbook for other people if you choose to be vulnerable and open yourself up about it. So we came up after the conversation. Of course, with a translator, it's even crazier when you're talking to someone in translation. And he looked at me in my eyes and he was like, my story is I come from the former capital city. I had a very successful business. I lost it all, lost my family, lost everything. And I thought about ending it. Suicide is a very common thing in Kazakhstan. And my heart would just immediately start breaking because I could see the pain in his eye, but I could see hope had been sparked. This is a guy that was 20 years my senior, looking to me for advice. And I immediately was like, God, what do I need to share with this guy? And God told me that I needed to tell him he was worth it. And it was such a powerful moment. And the translator was talking to this gentleman, and he says, I came and I'm staying at a hostel next door to this venue, and I saw a flyer about entrepreneurship. And I just came. I said, your story and your ability to be humble and to continue to learn is what all these young people in here need.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I said, turn around. And he's looking around. I said,
you're the mentor they're looking for.
This is what they need. Go be that.
Yeah.
And we embraced, and I could feel the warmth of restoration happening. And all it happened was because I was able to be used by God in that moment with those people that are leading the charge in Kazakhstan. But that happened because in Dubai a few months earlier, I said yes. But God had orchestrated all that to begin with.
And you never know where a yes will lead you.
So say yes and allow God to use you with no condition, but to be generous, be humble, and stay curious.
It's been a great conversation.
Love it, man.
Love it. Now you guys know why I brought Josh on. Not just a friend, but a mentor. I was taking mental notes, as hopefully you were too. Thanks for sharing your story,
dude. And to leave it with the team and for yourself as well. As you know, I have no idea. And we were talking about this to a young man this morning. I have no idea what tomorrow's going to hold. I could lose it all tomorrow. But I have a remarkable understanding and appreciation that I cherish that God has brought me through multiple times. So if I get that call tomorrow, or if I have that a moment tomorrow, I say, okay, it's time to cross that Jordan again.
It's time to cross again.
There's one thing about crossing the Jordan once
Yep.
is that you can go back, and then you can go back again, right?
Yeah, there's multiple Jordans
There's
in our life.
there's a cleansing that happens with that. If you say, I made it to the other side, now I have all that's owed to me. You don't.
No.
It's with each level comes a greater intensity. So it's not like it's going to be all rosy. Understand that if you're tasked with something remarkable, it's going to come at a price. But God's faithful for it.
Thank you, bro.
Appreciate you.
See you guys next time.